I want to thank you for joining me today. My name is Harry Maurer, and I want to introduce you to an economical and nearly done-for-you way for theaters and clubs to make additional income by streaming their live performances to their subscribers, members, and new audiences on streaming platforms. The most difficult things for theaters and clubs is the current restrictions put on them by their state or county, at times only allowing 25% occupancy with social distancing. It's made it difficult to entertain audiences and at times impractical to launch a production or even open their doors because with that small an audience, there's no way to recoup the money spent on the production, not to mention the ongoing costs of running a club or theater. But even with a limited audience in attendance, streaming your shows live at the same time it's being presented in front of a live audience would be a wonderful way to increase your revenue with each production. But that would normally mean either hiring an expensive camera crew who hopefully knows enough about streaming to do it properly, or spending the time and money on your own just to learn the process. I'm not suggesting recording a show in an empty theater and hoping people get a pseudo-live experience, which they won't. This is performing your show for a live audience while at the same time streaming it to subscribers so they can share in the enthusiasm of a live show. My name is Harry Maurer, and I am an entertainer who presents shows in theaters, casinos, and cruise ships around the world, and I know firsthand how hard-hit theaters, clubs, and fellow artists have been affected by this pandemic. And I know that you want your theater or club to survive beyond this pandemic. I know that with limited seating restrictions imposed by state and counties, you want to make sure your productions are profitable. And you don't want to lower the quality of the entertainment that you provide. And in this current environment, you want to find additional ways not just to survive, but to create additional income for your theater during this pandemic and beyond. So what's keeping you from streaming your shows in your theater or club? The tech? The low quality of streaming productions that you've seen? The cost? Or perhaps you feel you don't need to. You can wait it out. Don't confuse what I'm about to show you with virtual shows that you see being presented on Facebook. When the pandemic started, entertainers trying to survive started doing virtual shows from their living rooms. What were seasoned professionals with terrific shows came across as amateurs shooting with webcams or laptop cameras, and without the proper environment, the theatrics, the sound quality, and the production quality that a real theater or venue could provide, their shows came across as unprofessional, and in many cases it hurt their reputation rather than helped it. Unfortunately, that is the initial impression that a show viewed on the internet leaves you with. Low quality, badly produced amateurish shot-at-home entertainment that people are giving away for free or, at most, at a very low cost. What I'm suggesting is presenting television-quality productions, shot with multi-cameras in high-quality 4K resolution with real camera operators panning, zooming in, changing camera angles, and more, and making shows in your venue come across as a live television production. According to Jim McCarthy, the co-owner of Gold Star, the days of free living room shows is over, and we're now moving into professional online productions. And do you think streaming shows will be around for a long time? As a professional entertainer, I'm watching what's happening from the sidelines. Throughout history, entertainment has made transitions from live stage to radio to movie screens to television, and very few entertainers manage to succeed in each evolution. George Burns comes to mind and is one of the very few that did it successfully, but those that didn't make the transition thinking that this is just a fad, it's not going to last, ended up fading out because they either waited too long or never successfully made the transition. Even now, as I present this webinar, 9 months into this pandemic, many theaters and clubs have already closed their doors for good. Shows that were the staple of Las Vegas and Broadway are closed, never to reopen again. And many fine entertainers have either retired or left their profession forever for something more reliable. But now, theaters and clubs are just starting to reopen and are trying to pay the bills, but they know that being limited to only 25% occupancy, they can't survive or make a profit with such a small audience, and even with lists of patrons and supporters who would love to attend their shows if it were deemed safe to do so, are too cautious to gather publicly. So how do they expect to make money? Use smaller productions or less expensive acts and lowering the ball, hoping that it helps to increase their profitability just a little bit? With the ability to stream your shows live in front of a limited but live audience, you have the potential of selling more tickets than you have seats. Rather than struggling with the limitations of small, socially distanced audiences, you will get more viewers and more revenue by streaming the same show that you are presenting live. And I'll show you how you won't have to spend thousands of dollars for the equipment and staff to do this on your own. You will have at your disposal a professional company that will help you get set up, edit, and stream your show for you with their own equipment remotely. They won't even have to be there at your theater because they will be live editing your production from their studios in California, just like a live TV shoot, anytime you want to schedule it. I'm sure everyone on this webinar has either given thought to or tried to present their shows online virtually. But after watching amateur performers throwing their acts away online from their living rooms for tips or small fees, it can make the entire process seem distasteful and unprofessional. But if it's done with professional cameras and streamed and live edited in a high-quality production in front of a live audience, it can be special. And it really does need to be shot in front of a live audience, no matter the size. There are some venues that I've watched present recorded presentations in a completely empty theater. In fact, I saw one just the other night sponsored by a major theater, and I won't name them, but it was with an opera singer and a piano player. The talent was certainly there, but because there was no audience, there was no excitement, and it came across as flat and canned, which it was. And honestly, I turned it off. I would have enjoyed it more listening to it on the stereo rather than watching it. I believe that live theater needs a live audience, so even with the limitations of a small audience, a show online being presented in front of a live audience of any size gives viewers an alternative to actually being there, but even virtually, they get to experience the show along with a group in your theater and share in their reactions. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever watched a comedian perform without a live audience? Watching comedians that I know well perform Zoom shows has given me real insight into this. I know that if you were alone watching a comedian present jokes without the benefit of a live audience, you would say to yourself, "That's funny." But if you saw that same comedian present that same joke in front of a live audience, you would literally be laughing out loud and joining in along with the audience's laughter. And I'll take it a step further and tell you that I have even watched streaming concerts shot in front of a live audience and caught myself applauding after a spectacular number. There's nothing like a live audience, but why not give your online audiences the next best thing? Streaming your shows while presenting them live will give audiences at home the feeling of a live show. I think that 4 things keep theaters from moving into streaming their productions. First is the idea that this will soon pass. This pandemic is destined to last a long time, and it will take people a while, even once a vaccine is distributed, for them to feel comfortable gathering again in large groups. So if you have the time and money to wait, that may work. But you will lose the benefits of establishing yourself early in a new medium that may be poised to explode. Don't want to be the early adapter of this technology? I hate to tell you this, but you're already late. There are venues around the country right now killing it with streaming their live shows. For example, the Boca Black Box Theater in Florida latched onto this early on, and even during this pandemic, they are not just streaming their live shows, but they have just opened a second venue and are streaming shows from there as well. Another reason theaters are hesitant is because if they move onto a streaming platform, they want to be sure that they can present a high-quality production that they can be proud of. If their shows use a home camera or webcams and come across like the living room singers doing free shows on Facebook, they would rather not do it at all. Another concern is getting the technical setup right so they don't waste money, embarrass themselves, and hurt their reputation. I am not a technical person, and although I have a good idea of what I might need to do this right on my own, it would be expensive time-consuming and take a lot of experimentation for me to get it right by doing this on my own. And the final consideration, which I've just touched on, is the cost involved in setting all of this up. A multi-camera shoot with high-end cameras and the equipment needed to stream it and the personnel required to shoot, edit, and get it online properly would be an expensive undertaking. And if it doesn't work out, then rather than create income, you've just wasted money that could have been used for salaries or rent. A few months after this pandemic crippled the entertainment industry, and close friends of mine had to close their theaters and clubs for an undetermined period of time, I got a call from a man named Alex, who was telling me about the company he was working for. Because I produce shows for theaters and nonprofits, he thought I might have a need for his company's services. We had a long talk about his company. For over 8 years, they've been presenting live streaming for churches and houses of worship around the country. They not only provide small, unobtrusive cameras, but they remotely edit the event live from their studios in California as it streams, the exact same way that a studio might edit a live TV show. All of the cameras are high-end 4K cameras that are robotically controlled, and his company in California is available whenever needed to live edit and stream the events remotely. I immediately saw how beneficial this could be for theaters and clubs, so we talked further, and I was initially concerned about the pricing. Most of the clubs I knew who were already struggling for months with no income would have a hard time justifying the cost. So I had a meeting with one of the owners of the company, and we came up with a pricing that was very reasonable and had a lot of free features that I never would have expected them to provide, and I decided to team up with them to present their streaming production services to those in the entertainment industry. What they provide really amazed me. First of all, they had already been streaming events for 8 years, so this medium is not new to them. That was important to me because rather than being a new company that threw something together just to take advantage of this crisis, they were well versed in it and had already been doing it for years. What they do is provide 2 small, unobtrusive 4K robotic cameras to your venue. And whenever you schedule it, they stream your event at the same time it's being presented live. And as it's being shot, the event is edited live with experienced editors in California, remotely zooming in when needed, cutting away to a long shot, changing the camera angles, and more, just like a live television production. Their service is perfect for clubs and theaters, and after a few meetings, we discussed how we might make this equally affordable for both smaller clubs and larger theaters. We worked out a pricing that I believe any venue can afford, and I made sure that there were no long-term commitments so that there is no financial risk for theaters and clubs who wanted to do this as professionally as possible while testing the waters to see what the response would be to their live streamed events. Here's what they're offering, and here's how we made it affordable. The company provides you with 2 small robotic 4K cameras and an encoder for your venue that allows their operators to pan, tilt, zoom, change camera angles, and stream with a multi-camera setup. Now, these cameras normally cost $3,000 each, but we arranged a rental pricing of $99 each per month. If these high-end cameras are something that you decide you would rather purchase, they are currently offering both cameras, 2 for 1, for $3,000. But as I said, it's not necessary to purchase them. You schedule your shows whenever you want, and the company will remotely live edit the show from their studios in California and stream it out onto whatever platform you choose. The price varies depending upon the number of productions you schedule each month, but to give you an example, for 2 to 5 shows during the month, the cost is $149 each for up to 2.5-hour shoots, and less if you have more shows than that. Now, you can't get a professional 2-camera film crew to come in and film and edit your show for that small a fee. What that means is that if, for example, you streamed 4 shows during the month and charged $40 per ticket, no matter the size of your theater, with the cost of renting the cameras and the cost of live editing the show, it would only take you 5 purchasers per show to break even. If you charged $30, it would take 7 people to break even. And remember, there's no obligation to continue. If for some reason you don't see traction and feel that you're never going to end up building an online presence, then you can stop and return the equipment at any time. But I doubt you will. Most theaters and clubs have a list of patrons they can promote the show to through their in-house list, many of whom are fans and would love to either see a show or support your venue. And adding live streaming options to your normal advertising will cost you nothing extra. But now you'll also have the ability to reach people outside of your local area. Do you think that opera fans from California would like to see what the Houston Opera production is like? How about ballet companies? What about symphonies? Do you think comedy fans who follow a particular artist would like the opportunity to see them online live? Do you think that fans in Iowa would want to see a real Broadway show on Broadway? Or a Vegas show in Las Vegas? Do you think families spread out around the country would want to see their nephew or grandchild in a community production at your theater? Of course they would. But it gets better. If your venue is presenting lecturers, conferences, or presentations that you feel do not need to be live edited, with zooming in and changing camera angles, etc., and could just be streamed using the camera locked in one position, you can still schedule the stream and the company does not charge you a thing for that. And with high-end professional 4K cameras set up in your theater, you now have the ability to rent out your space to people desperately looking for a place to stream meetings and conferences, artists who want to stream their own shows, local dance companies and smaller theater companies in your city who couldn't possibly do this on their own. You just roll the streaming costs into your rental pricing. And there are many additional features you're going to want to explore. Just click on the green button at the top right of this screen for more details, and the button below if you'd like to schedule a call. But the one feature I want to mention is the backups and redundancies in place. Since your shows are backed up, you can burn the shows onto DVD to sell to your cast members. You can restream the recorded version of your show at a later time, and remember, there is no additional cost to stream a show without having live editing. And you can also offer 4K quality recorded copies to artists who rent your venue. There are so many options. As I mentioned, I'm not a technical person, so the best thing I recommend is to click on the button below and fill out the online form, and someone from the streaming company will be happy to reach out to you personally to answer any questions you may have. There's no obligation to give you the details of what might be the best saving grace for the theater industry during this unprecedented time. And it's easy to do. If you decide this is something that would work well for your venue, the equipment can be sent out to you immediately, and you could be ready to start streaming as early as a week from the time that you order. And remember, there's no long-term commitment. If you feel that streaming shows to a virtual audience is not going to work for you, just send back the equipment and you'll have no further obligation. I really believe that this will help the theater industry. My name is Harry Maurer, and I hope this gives you food for thought and gives you a way to create additional revenue for your club or theater while stepping into a blossoming entertainment medium. Who knows what the future of entertainment holds? But remember that one short year ago, only business people knew about Zoom meetings, and now it's used every day by ordinary people. I don't believe that live entertainment will ever die. There is nothing like it. But streaming shows in high resolution in front of a live audience will keep your venue in people's minds, increase your revenue, and allow you to continue to provide the same high-quality entertainment that your audiences are accustomed to seeing in your venue. So why not click on the button below and arrange a call?